Well, hello and welcome to our reading of Mark's Gospel. We're up to chapter 14. And it was the Passover and Ta'atzuma, this is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, after 2 days. So this must be 2 days before the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how by trickery, having got control over him, so having arrested him, kratio, aorist participle here, they might kill him. For they were saying, understand something like, do not do it at the feast, lest there will be a thoribos, a disturbance of the people. Now we get a couple of genitive absolutes here. This is the anointing of Bethany, which is in, interestingly, Matthew and John, but not Luke. And while he was in Bethany, in the house of Simon the leper, another genitive absolute, and while he was reclining, a woman came having an alabaster jar of myrrh, of spikenard. It's normally translated as a special kind of myrrh, which is pistikes, which is expensive, and polutellus, and pistikes is pure, could be liquid, perhaps pure spikenard, and polutellus, very expensive. This is from participle, feminine participle aorist, from somtribo, to smash or break. So having broken the jar, she poured it down his head, so down upon his head. So the kata here is making this take a genitive. From katacheo, to pour down, poured it down upon his head. But there were certain ones, aganactuntes, participle from aganaptio, to become annoyed. So proshiatus, perhaps in themselves. So perhaps sometimes rendered grumbling or being annoyed in themselves, and they're saying something like, we have no bit of saying here, but why this destruction of the myrrh? So why has this loss of myrrh occurred? Gegon perfect from Ginomai. For this myrrh was able, this is the imperfect, with a funny augment at the beginning of dunamai. Why was this myrrh able? Prathenai is aorist passive infinitive. It's from piprasco is the verb. Piprasco, to be sold, for epano means above, so more than 30 denarii, and to be given to the poor. And enebrimonto, we've had this verb occurs earlier in Mark, of where Jesus speaks sternly to someone. So they spoke sternly to her. And Jesus said, "Leave her be. Why do you provide troubles for her? She has wrought in me a noble work. For you have always the poor with you," literally among yourselves. Mark often uses our tone for set our tone, especially for the plural form, among yourselves. And whenever you wish, you are able to do good to them. But you do not have me, pantoti, always. She has done what she had, often translated what she could, so she did what she could. Probelen, so it's funny words from prolambano, it must mean something like anticipated. So she anticipated to anoint my body for entaphiasmon. This is the burial or the laying out, in fact. Sometimes rendered as just for burial, for the laying out, for the placing in a taphos, a tomb. Truly I say to you, wherever the gospel is preached, aorist passive here, subjunctive, in the whole world, also that which she has done will be, future passive here, will be said or will be spoken as a remembrance of her. And Judas Iscariot, and again there are varied readings here, the one of the 12, went out, we're not told why, but went out to the chief priests in order that he might betray him to them. So this is a funny irregular aorist subjunctive here from paradidomi, to hand him over to them, literally. Paradidomi can mean hand over, literally, or betray. And they, having heard, they were glad, they rejoiced, and they promised Dunai, aorist infinitive from didomi, to give money to him. And he was seeking as to how he might hand him over, or betray him, eukairos, when the time was right, or at the right time. And on the first day of unleavened bread, when they were sacrificing the Passover, his disciples say to him, historic present, where do you wish us having gone that we might prepare in order that you might eat the Passover? So we get an aorist subjunctive here from hetoi masdo. So where do you wish us having gone that we might prepare in order that you might eat the Passover? And, historic present, he sends 2 of his disciples and says to them, depart into the city, kai apantase, from apantao, you will meet, a man will meet with you, it takes a dative, carrying a keramion, a clay jar, hudatos, of water. Now this also is slightly odd. Men generally didn't carry clay pots of water. That was the female job in antiquity, so it's an odd thing to be doing, and there would have been many women carrying these things around there when you go into the city, but this is a man, so he would have stood out. Follow him, and wherever he might enter in, say to the master of the house that the teacher says, where is kataluma? Now this is some sort of upper room, an upstairs room. So where is my upstairs room where I might eat the Passover with my disciples? And he, Daikse, future from Daiknumi, will show to you a great anagion. This is another word for an upstairs room, and it's a New Testament word. I think it's only here. It means above ground, literally. So he will show to you a great upstairs room, estromenon, decked out, hetoimon, ready. This is a perfect participle here from stronumi, perfect passive participle, decked out, ready, and there make preparations for us. And his disciples went out, and they went into the city, and they found it just as he had said to them, and they prepared the Passover. And genitive absolute, it having become late, he comes with the 12, historic present. Genitive absolute, and when they're reclining and eating, Jesus said, "Truly I say to you that one of you will betray me, the one eating with me." And they began to be grieved. They began to be grieved and to say to him one by one, "Surely it is not I." And he said to them, "One of the 12, those baptomenos," so it's dipping in their, so it's literally dipping in with me into the trubalon, into the dish. This is a deep dish. It's generally containing a sauce as part of the ritual here, made from various spices and wines into which the bitter herbs were dipped. So the one dipping with me into the dish, it's a classical word from bouillon, because the Son of Man departs as it is written regarding him. But woe to that man through whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It is, understand Esti, it is good for him if that man were not born, had not been born. So it is good for him that that man had not been born. And that's the end of that section.